Hello, welcome to Gus McDoll Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through the 16 operations of the German Grand Campaign in Close Combat 3, the Russian Front. Please remember to subscribe, comment, and like the video, and if you want to show your support with a donation, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. This is the first battle in the German Grand Campaign, the War in the East, from 1941 to 1945. This campaign covers 16 separate historical operations. Before we start, a few notes on this playthrough, both technical and gameplay. I've set the screen resolution to 1920 by 1080, which gets the best visual results during battle, but it means the command, briefing, requisition and debriefing screens are relatively small, and I hope you'll bear with me. The game is set at Hero difficulty, and battles will end when all victory locations are taken with a 2-minute warning, or after 15 minutes. This will ensure each episode does not bog down, but it may also lead to some rematches on the same map. Finally, soldier displays show team suppression and individual cover, with health displayed on the soldier monitor. And, thanks to a tip in the comments, I will occasionally use the spacebar to indicate the command radius. Moving to gameplay, this is a different game to Close Combat 2 in 3 key respects. In A Bridge Too Far, the Allied objective was to use different company-sized teams to seize and hold ground, accepting casualties to do so. Each episode might see a different company from a different division. In the Russian front, the same company Kampfgruppe or company combat team plays the entire campaign. So the objective is to preserve and gradually increase the strength of Kampfgruppe McDoll and each of its squads. This favours a more cautious and conservative approach to each battle, minimising casualties even at the expense of the objective. Second, the Kampfgruppe will gradually modernise and mechanise from mainly infantry to a mixed force of infantry, armour and artillery units. Over time, squads will reconstitute and upgrade using the refit function. Finally, the enemy will get progressively stronger over the course of their campaign, particularly enemy armour. Kampfgruppe McDoll starts on the strategic, operational and tactical offensive, but we all know how the war ended. So, let's start the campaign.
The Russian front ignites on June 22, 1941. Germany unleashes a Blitzkrieg, a lightning war against Russia. Withering artillery barrages and crippling air attacks immobilize the defenders. German panzer armies blast huge holes in the Russian defenses. German armor penetrates 250 miles into Russian territory during the first week of the war. The Russians are wholly unprepared for the German attack. New defenses along the Russian frontier are not ready. Many units have weapons, but no ammunition. Some in Moscow refuse to believe the Germans have attacked. Permission to open fire is withheld. Whole Russian army groups are encircled and destroyed by fast-moving panzer units. In the first 100 days of the war, the fires of the front nearly consume Russia. Riga, Smolensk, and Kiev all fall to the Germans. It seems nothing can stop the relentless German advance. 3 million Russian soldiers are dead or captured. Thousands of aircraft and tanks are destroyed.
Operational briefing. German Blitzkrieg Barbarossa, June 26, 1941. Across the entire front, the Great German Army has smashed through the Bolshevist defences, inflicting heavy losses in men and equipment. Your new command is a Kampfgruppe combat group attached to the 24th Motorised Division. Your mission is to exploit our breakthrough and drive on to Lviv. I will call Lviv Lemberg, its historic German name when it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. You will be advancing through broken terrain where the many hills, streams and marshes will provide cover for harassing and delaying attacks. You may also encounter field fortifications in some depth. Directly in front of you is the Soviet 214th Infantry Division, which may have support from artillery and armoured units. The enemy's armoured units may be using a new tank, designated T-34. Battle briefing. Blitzkrieg. The war begins. The drive to Lemberg is on. According to intelligence reports, the inept Bolshevist forces on your front should be no match for your well-trained and well-armed men. Your command is attached to the 24th Motorised Division. Your objective is to brush aside the enemy and continue on to Lemberg. You can win with infantry and light support, machine gun and mortar teams. However, armour or mobile support teams give you an advantage, a command tank or half-track doubly so. Because intelligence indicates the Russians have only light anti-tank weapons, you can lead with armour. The summer weather means good cross-country footing for tanks and vehicles. Reconnaissance shows the ridgeline west of the river offers excellent fields of fire. If you take the southern end of this ridge, you can cover the ridge beyond. You'll need to capture at least one crossing. The hills and buildings east of the river cover the crossings. Be prepared as you approach. Gain any of the hills east of the river and you can hit the enemy's positions with flanking fire. We start the campaign with Platoon Leader von McDowell, a one-man army. Other command teams are available, but for now we will stick with the platoon leader. There are regular infantry, conscript, and elite. There is a range of armour, elite, and regular, and quite a lot of support to choose from. First things first, let's rename the squad. There, that's better. Von McDowell. Commanders provide leadership on the battlefield. Position commanders so their command radius encompasses the teams you want controlled. Use commanders to lead assaults and anchor defensive positions. Regular infantry include machine gun infantry with MG34, rifle infantry or Schutzen, rifle infantry with Molotovs, and scouts or Aufklärer. I want firepower for the growing Kampfgruppe. Machine gun infantry MG34. This squad will give me firepower and manoeuvre. Position machine gun teams with a clear field of fire. Use them to suppress the enemy when you attack, defend key positions, or ambush enemy infantry and light vehicles. Move these teams only when necessary. They are equipped with MP40, MG34, Walther P38, Mauser, 5 hand grenades, and a smoke grenade. Rifle infantry Schutzen 1941. Position these teams on the front lines. Use them in any standard infantry role, attacking enemy positions, providing suppression fire, or defending your positions. These teams can fight without a commander. This team has anti-tank capability. They are equipped with 2 MP40, 1 Panzerbuch 39 anti-tank rifle, 1 Walther P38, 1 scoped Mauser, 3 Mausers, 1 grenade bundle, 12 hand grenades, and 2 smoke grenades. I have a choice of a number of tanks, but limited points, and I will go with the cheapest for now. Light tank Panzer 35, check. This light tank relies on speed. Its 3.7cm gun lacks punch. Its thin armour makes it vulnerable to tanks and all anti-tank weapons. Use the Panzer 35T for infantry support, reconnaissance, counterattacks, or mobile defence. It is equipped with an MG37T in the bow, a 3.7cm L40T cannon, an MG37T coax, and the crew have Walther P38 pistols. A lot of firepower in one vehicle and just what I need. For support, I have a choice between a light half-track MG, light 5cm mortar, or heavy machine gun MG34. I'm trying to build a balanced team with infantry, armour, and artillery. I choose the mortar. Light mortar 5cm Granatwerfer. Position mortar teams behind buildings, hills, or trees. they lob shells at the enemy. Use them against roofless targets, including vehicles, or to lay smoke screens. The mortar team uses small arms when mortar ammunition is gone or infantry threatens. It is equipped with a 50mm or 5cm mortar, one Mosin Nagant 1891, 2 Mausers, and 5 hand grenades. So, that is Kampfgruppe von McDowell. Let's examine the terrain and develop a plan. North is to the top of the map. The road to Lemberg winds through the area, crossing the river at a small bridge, before heading east to Lemberg. Control of the road is vital to allow 24th Motorised Division to move vehicles with troops and supplies to the front lines. I have marked 5 areas moving west to east. Number 1, an open area of ground either side of the road. It is overgrown with vegetation, providing some concealment to infantry, with farm fields nearer the river. A small hill to the northwest overlooks this area, providing good observation out to the other side of the river. Number 2, a small ridgeline with trenches dug on the forward slope. The ridge commands the ground to the west. It also commands the ground to the east, overlooking the bridge. There is little cover or concealment in this area other than shrubs at the base of the ridge. There is a lot of open ground between the ridge and the bridge. Number 3, a ford over the river with trees and fields either side. Almost certainly passable to infantry. It is not certain whether tanks can get across. The ford could be used by either side for flanking manoeuvres. Number 4, the bridge over the river, capable of supporting trucks and light tanks. There are buildings either side of the bridge that offer cover and concealment, and a trench line on the far side. Number 5, a defensive position on the high ground east of the river, Hill 115, with a second support line of trenches in the low ground. The position overlooks the ford and the bridge, and can bring fire on the road. However, the position is vulnerable to flanking. Key terrain includes the hill overlooking the open ground and the ford, the ridgeline overlooking the bridge, and the defensive position at Hill 115 east of the river. Decisive terrain is the bridge across the river. Control of this bridge allows vehicle traffic to move along the road to Lemberg. Avenues of approach include along the road and over the ridge. I assess the enemy possibly has forces positioned on the ridgeline, at the ford, at the bridge, and in the defensive position on Hill 115. Enemy mortars are likely to be located on the reverse slope of the defensive position. The first enemy course of action is to mount a ford defence to keep German troops away from the river. Russian troops will be in position on the ridge and use the high ground to pour fire onto the road and the forward slopes of the ridge. The enemy depth position will be in the buildings and trenches on the opposite side of the river. The second enemy course of action is to allow some of the German troops to cross the river, then attack from the defensive position at Hill 115 while the forward and rear groups are dislocated. The enemy may stage a counterattack from the ford into the flank of German troops crossing the bridge. I assess the enemy are more likely to defend the river, ford and bridge from east of the river, rather than from the ridgeline. The first German course of action is to advance along the road. The panzer would lead, followed by the light infantry, then command, then the machine gun infantry. The mortar would take the high ground to provide fire support. On contact, the infantry would deploy to a flank and attack under cover of direct fire support from the tank. The formation would work their way along the road, past the ford, across the bridge, and along the road to Lemberg, cleaning up pockets of Russian resistance as they go. This approach would be effective against a section-strength enemy position, but the open ground all along the road is exactly that, open, with little cover or concealment. There is too much risk of being caught and pinned in the open. The second German course of action is a frontal assault on the ridge. The panzer would provide direct fire support from the flank, with the infantry advancing rapidly in linear formation. The mortar would take the high ground to provide fire support. With the ridge secure, the mortar would lay a smoke screen north of the bridge while the infantry assault the bridge. With the bridge in German hands, the attack will then swing around behind the Russian defensive position and attack the remaining troops from the rear. This is a better plan for fixing and finishing any Russian troops east of the river. The key risk is the initial advance on the ridgeline. Fire support from the tank and mortar will be needed to suppress any Russian troops dug in on the ridge. In selecting the point of main effort, the Germans consider weaknesses in the enemy's defensive position, suitability of terrain, especially for tanks and for cooperation of all arms, approach routes, and possibilities for supporting fire, especially artillery. Von McDowell hails from an old Prussian aristocratic family. Having missed out on the Polish and French campaigns in 1939 and 40 on account of his youth, he is looking forward to action to make his name in the war, and perhaps expand the family estates. At first, his family connections saw him attached to battalion headquarters. But, after relentlessly pestering the battalion commander, he has at last been assigned a handful of soldiers and given an objective. I've now moved my troops into position and will execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action, and if you've identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. The German platoon races forward into the trees at the base of the ridge. The mortar opens a smoke barrage. Contact! Russian infantry at the ford on the opposite side of the river. The panzer moves ahead of the troops on the flank, ready to provide fire support. The smoke barrage will screen friendly movement. No sign of Russian troops on the ridge.
Stellung eingenommen. Gebiet gesichert.
Kleinschutz from the machine gun infantry secures the ridge. The panzer crosses open ground, taking advantage of the smoke screen. Blitzkrieg implies rapid maneuver. The smoke barrage shifts to the buildings east of the bridge. This will blind any Russians in the possible defensive position. The light infantry now plan their move in the fields in the approach to the bridge to maximize concealment.
Truppe umgruppiert.
The panzer prepares to cross the bridge. No sign of more Russians. The mortar is out of smoke. The mortar receives enemy counter-battery fire. They quickly retreat to the reverse slope. Von McDowell plans his move forward.
Stellung eingenommen.
The Russians have crossed the ford.
Gebiet gesichert.
The Panzer secures the bridge. And fires on the Russian troops. The mortar moves back into position.
Спасите меня!
The Panzer pushes along the road using speed and shock action. Pavlov the driver is so keen he takes the tank off-road. The infantry are lagging behind and need to pick up the pace to maintain momentum. The buildings east of the bridge appear deserted. Gentz urges his troops forward. Von McDowell also picks up the pace.
Stellung eingenommen.
Kleinschulz and the machine gun are in position to provide covering fire.
Gebiet gesichert. Truppe umgruppiert.
The Panzer secures the road to Lemberg. Now to outflank the defensive position at Hill 115. The Panzer is way out ahead of the infantry, which is a risk.
Stellung eingenommen.
The mortar team is back in position. They commence a fire mission in support of the infantry assault on the bridge.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
The Panzer locates Russians. The machine gun lays down covering fire on the building.
Ziel neutralisiert.
The Panzer destroys the Russian squad. Von McDowell is first across the bridge. Mortar fire lifts.
Противник предложил прекращение огня. Gebiet gesichert. Truppe umgruppiert.
The Panzer takes Hill 115.
Stellung eingenommen.
Machine gun fire lifts.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
The light infantry have crossed the bridge and consolidate in the building facing north. The Russians are keeping their heads down. The panzer cautiously advances. Von McDowell shouts his next orders to the infantry.
Truppe umgruppiert.
The Russians are clustered around a building west of the river.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The panzer opens fire. The machine gun joins in from the ridge. The mortar joins in. The Russians start taking fire from the high ground on three sides. The machine gun infantry lose line of sight.
Мы пропали!
They advance to the building west of the bridge. The mortar has direct line of sight and places the rounds with great accuracy. The light infantry open fire on the Russians.
Спасите меня!
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Decisive victory! The battle ended because the Russians fled the battlefield. The Germans gained control of the area and will advance. The Germans suffered no losses. The Russians lost 6 killed, 4 wounded. So, what did we learn? A nice way to start the campaign, but I doubt it will stay this easy. In true Blitzkrieg fashion, the Germans relied on speed of execution to carry the day. The infantry avoided unnecessary dispersion. The smoke screen was effective. The panzer was out in front moving quickly, and once it outflanked the Russian position, victory was only a matter of time. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.